We're gonna we're going to record this because we have a few people who couldn't make it tonight and wanted to get the recording afterwards. But Michelle, I really appreciate the intro. I started Renaissance Collective almost a year and a half ago. And I started it because this is exactly the community that I would have wanted when I moved to the Bay Area around 8 years ago. And when I moved here, I did not have a background in tech or startups. Unlike Michelle, I'm not an engineer, but I have a background in political theory and international development. And so I spent about 10 years on and off in Asia. And then I moved to the Bay Area. And I knew I wanted to work in startups, but it was so hard for me to get connected. It took me about 4 years of doing projects and working with various startups before I met enough people to feel like I found my place here. And it was really tough. And so what I realized in this process was that you really get connected to the best opportunities in tech through the best people networks. And so, what Renaissance Collective is essentially an amazing people network. It's a highly curated community. And in my opinion, it's the most collaborative tech community that I've been a part of. Over the past year, it's been really fun to watch our community grow to be basically one part social club and one part professional network. So we really started as a small group of friends. I'd written a bunch of pieces on Medium about a smart generalist's place in tech. Some of you might have seen it. But a lot of people reached out to me after that and they were like, that describes me. I'm also a smart generalist. And after realizing that there were more of us, I was like, okay, let's just get together. And so we started with beach bonfires, we started with potluck dinners. And so we did a lot of like meeting in person before the pandemic hit, and that was like 3 months into after Renaissance Collective started. So we quickly moved to all virtual events, and right now it's going back to like a mix. So for those of you, you'll hear more about this from Sarah later, but we've got an operators you should know and a founders you should know series where we invite some of the best operators and founders in tech to come speak to our community. And there's one coming up tomorrow at noon with the CMO of Discord. You guys are all invited if you'd like to join. But we've also seen a lot of people just meet up in person now. And so a couple of people are coming to visit me tomorrow from the Renko community. Michelle hosted a New York City meetup last week. But like Michelle mentioned, we have members from all over the world, and people help each other navigate their careers in all kinds of ways, from sharing interesting opportunities to helping each other with mock interviews to writing blog posts together, editing each other's like Substack pieces, working on new startup ideas together, and even angel investing together. So I think whatever stage you're at in your career and whatever it is you want to do in tech, this is a really good opportunity to be part of a real community of people who all strongly identify as smart generalists. Before you hear from the other panelists tonight, I wanted to stress one more thing, and it's that we're building this community in service of us because we think it should exist in the world. And everyone in Renco works together to co-create a community that we're really proud of. I think I could say a lot more about Renaissance Collective, but I want to give everyone a chance to meet the Renco members we have here and to get all of your questions answered so you can decide whether you want to apply or not. So as other members introduce themselves, feel free to put your questions for me or for anyone else in the group in the chat, and we'll go through those and answer those. And we'll introduce members one at a time, hear about their Renko experience, and then move to Q&A. And then we'll move you guys to breakout rooms and you can, chat like more intimately with Renko members here.
Thanks, Jen. That was wonderful. I think it's every single day that we're interacting within the Renko community that I just think like, man, Jen was a genius for starting this, because if you think about like developing connections, right, that could one day help you with your career or with an idea or just in any type of way, the strongest connections are the ones that are made organically and the ones that are made in a genuine low commitment kind of way. Like you're not directly meeting somebody to ask them for something, but you're really just meeting people because you want to learn about them and be part of a community and co-create with them. And every single day that I experience something like that, I'm like, man, Jed's a genius. This is not a cult, I promise. Okay, let's introduce our really cool, we have 3 members that you haven't met yet. And so let's start with each of the members. We have Sarah, Amit, and Laurel. Each of them are gonna just briefly introduce themselves, kind of like we did, and then just give you a short 2 to 3 minute summary of why they joined Renco, what they value about the community, and just ways that they've contributed to building the community. Because as Jen mentioned, we're really of the mindset of like, you get out what you put into the community. So how about we start with Sarah?
Yeah, thank you. Hey everyone, really happy to be here and happy to see you all. Renco is super special to me. I joined because my former manager was one of the operators in our Operators You Should Know series. And so I joined the event and I didn't have a ton of high expectations, didn't really know what it was about, kind of semi-identified as a generalist. And as soon as the event started, I noticed just this really special energy. Everyone was super thoughtful, super fun, super interesting. The questions were great. And I decided to attend an open house like you are right now, and have been a part of the community since November. And since then, I feel like I really just value the eagerness that everyone has in supporting one another. It's a really genuine, non-transactional group of people. The breadth of questions that I bring to Renco is like from personal family stuff to just career. So I've really enjoyed being a part of it. I've been enjoying being part of the admissions process, meeting you folks, and tomorrow I'm going to be co-moderating an Operators You Should Know event as well with the CMO Discord. So if any of you are interested in coming, we'd be really happy to have you there. So let us know if you'd like to come.
Awesome, thank you. Amit, how about we go to you next?
Let's do it. Hey everyone, I'm Amit. I'm currently in New York. I think we're coming up on a year, Jen, of me and Renco. I kind of came off of a couple of years in tech and then a detour through politics during the primary and general election, and was sort of trying to figure out what I wanted to do, and was talking to a good friend of mine, Nadia, who had been in Renco for a while, and she mentioned that there was a group of interesting people who were grappling with lots of similar questions about what to do and how to go about doing it. And she walked me through how to apply and how to not be scared of the essay questions. And since then, it's been a great place for me to ask questions about things I want to learn more about. We just started like a cryptocurrency channel. I've had lots of conversations about like decentralized finance and stuff that I know nothing about, but I'm interested in learning about. And there's always someone willing to answer questions. It's a great place to submit work that I want feedback on, to get into long arguments about things that probably matter less than they should. And I've really enjoyed, especially during the pandemic, just sort of having an always on group of smart, thoughtful people that I can reach out to for advice on any number of things. And now that we're starting to hang out in person, it's sort of added a great second layer to that.
Thank you so much. Laurel, you're next.
Hi, I'm Laurel Skirko. I'm here in the Bay Area, and I learned about Renco through a common friend of Jen and I's, and was talking with him about my job search and seeing so many job applications that were looking for specialists. And he used the word smart generalists and told me a little bit about what Jen was doing, and I met her and applied and have been a member for about a year. And what has surprised me is just the fact that it feels like a dorm room, I guess I would say, in a college, where I'm very honest with people. There's people who are talented and diverse, who are up at all hours, day or night. So there's always someone in the lounge, if I use that analogy, that I can just say hello to, exchange a word, reality check on things that happened over the last year, just to calm me or to inspire me. And it's also inspired me to write, because writing is a big part of this. And one of my aspirations was to write a little bit more. And then also this technological piece, which is not a part of my core, but since I joined Renco, I've taken on more tech projects for the first time, and I attribute that to all of the great help I've gotten from people in this community. And in terms of what I've done to contribute, I guess I'm pretty low key. I participate on the chats, try to answer questions, and then have brought in some ideas and gotten some of the team members to come together. We recently participated together, a very small group of us, in a hackathon that was outside Renco, and I was really excited that people at Renco were happy to jump on board with me. And I wanted to mention some of the channels and conversations that I love. The Salon group on Fridays, where we chat about philosophy. The last one was one of you changed your mind about something. And I think this just brings to bear what I find so refreshing about Renco. And there's just a lot of trust and vulnerability. And I haven't seen that in other groups. And I'm very shy and a little bit nervous. And this has totally opened me up and made me able to express myself in ways that I didn't think I could. Unblocker the same. And of course, operators you should know and founders you should know have been big go-tos to me that inspire me in terms of leadership and management, entrepreneurship. That's it. I look forward to answering questions, and thanks for your time.
Love it. Thank you so much. Henry, over to you. Henry's going to help us talk about our admissions process, but also tell us about your Renco story.
Great. Thanks, Michelle. So my name is Henry. I've I guess been with Renco almost since the beginning, back in August of 2019, when the group was 5 people, and have really seen it grow to the current size. So in terms of my background, I was a consultant and then moved over to the Bay Area. Didn't really have a network when I moved here. And so one of the best things that happened to me was getting to meet Jen within the first month, and immediately having a bit of a family through Renco. Since then, I've helped build up sort of version 1 of our admissions process, and led admissions for a period of time back in 2020. Amit has since taken over, but I'm still pretty intimately involved and familiar with the process. And so happy to walk through what we're looking for at a high level, answer any questions, and then certainly after this, we can move over to breakouts. So kind of starting with the philosophy behind admissions. People are obviously at the heart of the Renaissance Collective as a community. And so admissions is our way of finding people who will most likely feel like they belong to Renco. And so for this reason, admissions is selective, and we do take it very seriously. The process involves a couple of essays, and that forms the basis of how we make our admissions decisions. So in terms of why essays, so 3 reasons. First, we think that effective writing and communication is a really key skill that translates to any generalist role in any organization. It shows how you structure your thoughts, how you articulate arguments and decisions. And so we think that because it's really relevant to the type of profile that succeeds within Renco, we really want to make sure that we get a chance to see people's writing before they come through the door. Secondly, we do want to get beyond the resume because we realize that talented, smart people can come from many different backgrounds, and our community is stronger with diversity. And so we think that reading essays gives us a better sense to who you are beyond what's on the page of your resume. Finally, we think that the essays are a really effective way to get to know you personally, beyond bullets in a CV. We really do want to know who you are as a person, and we think that essays are a good way in which we can get insight there. That all said, we're not looking for thesis level writing. These are short essays. We're not looking for eloquence. We're looking for depth of thought. We're looking into insight into who you are. And so moving on into the actual process. And so the application consists of 3 short essay questions that talk about your experiences, and then a longer one that gives you a bit more room to structure your thoughts. And admissions are reviewed by a rotating crew of 3 Renaissance Collective members. And so for every essay or every application that we receive, there will be actual members of Renco who will read the essays, debate on the applications, and kind of select people who get admitted. And so we do take it very seriously on our side. And then once you're accepted, We run essentially monthly cohorts at the moment, and so you'll be admitted at the end of the month along with other members from that month. Now, there are 5 key components to what we look for in applications. The first is the strength of experience. And so here we're looking for both depth and diversity of experience. So any significant contributions, personal impact that you've made in past roles. But this is also fairly holistic. And so we'd love to see any volunteer work that you do, side projects, personal hobbies. It doesn't all have to be professional. Secondly, on thoughtfulness of responses. And so we do want to reward candidates who also take the application seriously, given the effort that our community puts into reviewing these applications. And so we do want to reward deep thought and effort. Third is clarity of expression. And so we think that essays are an opportunity for you to showcase your ability to communicate your thoughts, your arguments, and experiences with clarity, creativity, and nuance. And so given the importance of written communication, as I mentioned earlier, this is something that we will look for. But we do recognize that not every person in Renco necessarily has like English as a native language or whatnot. And so this is more about the ability for you to, clarify your thoughts and explain your positioning rather than how eloquent of an essay writer you are. Fourth is the motive to join. And so we look for people who genuinely want to get to know other members of our community, who want to share their knowledge and learn from each other. And the way that we view relationships within Renco is that these relationships are friendships. They're long-term and they're not meant to be transactional. And so we want people who are motivated by that same North Star to be part of our community. And the fifth point here is what we call value add to the community. And so we want people who are excited and generous to give back and to help other members, because that's really the fabric of our community. And so we love admitting members who can contribute by extending their personal and professional networks to help other members support community operations through writing, hosting events, running these types of info sessions, bringing their unique talents to share with the community. So those are the 5 dimensions that we look at, and I don't want the application to sound intimidating because it's a couple of questions, and we find that most folks are able to finish in a couple of hours. Since all of you are at the open house tonight, you'll have priority for both receiving and submitting your applications. So basically how this workflow works is you can send an email to admissions@renaissancecollective.co. And whenever you are ready to receive an application, we will send it to you. And once you receive the app, you'll have a week to submit it. And so we start a clock from the date that you receive the app, and you have a week to get it back to us. So yeah, all in all, definitely I would encourage you to apply if you're excited by what you've heard so far and about what you'll hear later on in the session. We do appreciate people of all different backgrounds and experiences. And personally, I find that that's the most refreshing part of Renco for me and why I love being on admissions, because I really get to see the breadth and different experiences of people who are joining the community. So yeah, I will pause there. Happy to answer any admissions related questions. And then we'll pass the mic back to Michelle as well.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I remember when I wrote my essays, it was a really wonderful moment to just be very thoughtful about what I wanted out of my own life. And there's a specific essay I always think about because it's kind of like my North Star that I drew that day. So anyway, it's not soppy anymore. Let's jump into questions. There's a couple. Thank you so much. Okay. I think we can start with Jen. Curious if you all think that Renco is the most valuable for people who are looking for their next role or job searching, or do you think it's also a great time to apply if you're feeling pretty happy where you are, but still curious and looking for connection?
I would say that most people apply because they want to be a part of a community. And some people, some small fraction of people are looking for their next opportunity. I feel like recently I've seen a lot more open roles posted than there are job seekers. there's a lot more that a community can offer in terms of being a trusted place for you to ask for help, whatever you're doing. So for instance, we have a managers channel where the managers meet up and talk about stuff. And then there's a founders channel, and then angel investing seems to be pretty active lately. So I think wherever you are in your career, even if you're not in the middle of a job transition, long-term relationships are beneficial. So, and then I think whenever you do want to find a new opportunity, there's a lot of roles that are shared through people networks first.
And what I would just add to that too is I think like the nature of what the community is like, even in terms of what job searching is like, is very different from any other groups that I'm in, where it's a lot more transactional. I found Renko to be really useful, even beyond like, hey, are there roles I should be applying to like, hey, there are 6 things that I think I might be interested in. Can I quickly get conversations set up with 3 or 4 people that are working in that or know people that are, so I can start to narrow in on what that world might be like. It sort of starts to like, it's still like job search adjacent, but much more like qualitatively useful than, hey, can you flag my resume to hiring manager and tell them that I'm good? Which people do as well, but far less frequently, is what I would just add. It's different from what I've seen.
Excellent, thank you. The next question, I think we answered it, but just wanted to, have some closure on that one. Are you able to apply whenever? When you're ready, just send the email that's in the chat box, an email saying that you're ready to apply, and then you'll have a week to apply. So yes, whenever. And then there was a question about what is the general mix of ages in Renko? Henry, do you want to answer that one since you're in admissions?
I can take a crack here. And so I think we are a diverse group. We do have people spanning all ages and different parts of their professional lives. And we think that diversity also adds a lot to the community. I would say in general, we probably skew a bit younger. And so call it like half of our members are probably in their mid to late 20s, and then maybe another third in their 30s, and the rest are likely all other age categories.
Thank you. The next question is, how many people are in the community now, and what percentage of applicants are accepted? And I have the answer for that one. So right now we're at 180 people, and the acceptance rate really kind of varies by cohort. It really isn't something that we focus on since we don't have any growth targets for the community as a whole. So we just evaluate each application on how it stands on its own and just figure out if you're just going to be a good fit for the community. So it really just depends on the person and the cohort. So nothing specific there. Those are all the questions that we have in the chat right now. Definitely feel free to add some more. But if not, we can go ahead and split into our breakout rooms. The purpose of the breakout rooms is to just have a little bit more of an intimate setting in case like the big room wasn't the right place to ask any questions. Oh yeah, how often does everyone meet is another question. Does anybody want to take that one? Particular?
I think I see Renko members probably twice a week, and then in person right now, and then a few times virtually. We've really cut back on virtual events for a while. I think it was sanity for all of us to get through the pandemic, and we were doing like 10 a week. We had improv workshops, cooking classes, game nights, whatnot. It's really up to members to organize these things. So we've done far fewer virtual events recently in the last 3 weeks, I'd say, as things reopen. And then we've done a lot more in person. We have a photographer who leads photo walks in New York City. Michelle organized a dinner in New York City. Before I left for Mammoth, we had a San Francisco Bay Area dinner. So we've been seeing each other in person, which is kind of cool. So it's really up to you how often you want to see people. A lot of people would just announce in the Slack channel that they're traveling, and they'd like to meet up with somebody in LA or New York or whatever. And so I think people meet up a lot.
There was another question about geographies and what's the distribution. We're actually in over a dozen cities around the world. So right now we have people in the US. I think we have a good portion of people in San Francisco. What I've learned is we have like 35 people in the New York area, couple people in, well, Sarah and I in Chicago. So really it just kind of depends. It's kind of scattered around the US, but we have people in Canada, UK, France, China, South Africa, Australia, Kenya, all over the place. Someone looks like somebody else is a photographer in New York City. Awesome. Yeah. So most time zones are covered. And like Jen said, it's kind of like what you put into it. So if you're in a time zone that like most people aren't in, let's go. You're it to organize events and to really get that community hop in. And that's really the kind of people that kind of come in. Awesome. Yeah, it looks like someone's ready to organize some drinks. Oh, that's Jen. Just kidding. Okay, great. Well, awesome. I think we're ready to go into the breakout rooms. So thank you so much, everybody, for logging on. I'm about to break you out into your own breakout rooms, and then we're not going to be coming back together into the general chat room. So once you're done, feel free to log off. And then at the end of the hour, I'll just shut it all down. So thank you so much. And we're so excited to get to know you. Hello, I think you are left there and okay, no, you're good. Okay.
Nice. Nice. Cool.
And I'm sorry, I didn't listen to the question.
No, just getting to know you. Where are you calling from?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm from Mexico. I've been living here, well, pretty much my whole life. I live in Germany for around a year, but in like 2004, 2005, I was living in a small town called Aachen. Well, I think in English it's Aachen as well. It's close to the border. It's in the border in Germany, close to the Netherlands and to Belgium. And I was living there. And well, I've been to the US a lot of times too. So I've been to San Francisco, to Seattle.
Hi. So I'm Christina. I'm currently in New York. I moved here right before the pandemic from the Bay Area. I'm a developer. And I run a podcast with a few friends called She's in Tech to encourage more women to be in tech and also, particularly in engineering roles. I used to do a lot of conference speaking in technical conferences, and I do open source work, but then my current workplace, it's really tricky to get either done. Ironically, I actually don't work in the tech firm anymore. I'm at a hedge fund, but I do miss ways of contributing back to the community beyond doing the podcast. So I'm excited to meet more people who are interested in technology and just to hang out with people.
What else? 3 more? Do you want to jump in, or you have questions too? You can jump in with your questions and just say a word about yourself.
Yeah. I was wondering, when things open up and as you guys transition to more in-person events, would this be more like, regional hubs, or do you expect to do continue with virtual events too?
Michelle, do you have the answer to that question?
Hi. I think we're gonna like organically allow the community to kind of turn into regional hubs in a sense where like, you really get a lot of your really good connections in person. But there are some recurring events that we do have, like as Laurel mentioned, we have unblocker sessions on Wednesdays, which is like the hive mind comes together to help you kind of like solve your problems and unblock yourself, or we have salon on Fridays. And I think that those will continue, and maybe new renditions of those type of recurring events. We very much have connections across different cities. And so I can't see myself not talking to Laurel for like a year, you know what I mean? So I think we're going to continue being very active on the Slack and just like organically putting virtual events together, just because I think over the pandemic, we were able to just connect with people who aren't in our geographical locations, that like now I can't see myself not connecting with them, so I think a little bit of everything, whatever feels right.
Yeah, that's pretty exciting.
I visited New York recently, I guess 2 weeks ago, and got a chance to meet some Renko members like Michelle did. And it meant so much. I mean, I had a great relationship on Zoom, and then just seeing him in person, it just made it even better. So I hope it's a combination.
Yeah, I'm passing by San Francisco in September, and I'm just going to go through my list of everyone I want to meet in person.
It's like being family already.
Mm-hmm.
Have that, we have that trust, and just talked about so many different topics, honestly. And I just wanted to add to the professionally, if you ever have a question, people say, how do I segment? I'm a marketer, and someone said, how do I segment a market? And then I just had a chance to have a little chat with her about how I segment markets, and people will help you just get over some little challenge in your work in a simple way. They just tell you straight up, here's the trick. You don't have to beat around the bush. And I love that aspect of it. People are super helpful.
Sort of that collective wisdom that is so powerful, I guess.
Yeah. And you can be vulnerable and say, oh, I just have this job, and it's like one of my core responsibility. I don't really get it. I thought that was so sweet when once he posted that, someone else posted something. I thought that is really cute. We're all challenging ourselves, and to have a community where you can feel safe and say, I don't know, or it's just been wonderful.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think like so many situations of making yourself vulnerable to like people on the internet that you've like developed this kind of trust with the other person enough to be like, so I have no idea what I'm doing. Someone help me.
Yeah. Part of being a generalist, I think, is, you can't be a master of all trades, but you could. And I think that's one thing we worked out is it's, we trust one another to be smart enough to get it. It's all right if you don't have it now, because you will. And I love that positive nature. Yeah. What are some reasons that you want to join? Or go ahead. Yes.
I have a question. I was just curious how, for a new member, possibly, like what the typical commitment would be in terms of, other than engaging with the community and maybe attending the events and, answering questions if they have an expertise in it. But other than that, is what is sort of expected of someone coming into the community, and if you could talk a little bit about that, that'd be great.
You want me to go, or you want to?
Sure. I mean, I think I'll just mention that I'm pretty low key and just try to jump in and check the chat and be involved from time to time. So it's not that onerous for me. And I've noticed for others, sometimes people get a new job, they're busy, like you don't see them for a little while, then they come up for air again. So it's just very natural. It doesn't seem like there's too much obligation. That's how I see it. But I like to try to think of ways I can give back, like coming today. It's like, oh, you know what? I kind of feel like it's time for me to do a little more.
Also, when you onboard, that's like the only time I've ever seen kind of like specifics of commitment. And it's like over 1 week, you have to like introduce yourself to the community, plan a get together with your cohort, and then like, I think there was one more thing, but it's very minimal, just kind of like introduction type of thing. And then the rest is like, there's 180 people right now that are super smart, super well-connected, super diverse, like super experienced or not experienced. And we just like a lot of the connections that are made on a one-on-one basis. So everybody knows that if you reach out to them for a one-on-one, like, hey, like Varun, we should chat. I haven't had a chance to chat with you one-on-one. Then you're saying yes. And that's how you're starting to forge these connections together one-on-one. So it's really like what you get out of it is what you put into it.
That's amazing. It's good to hear.
It's lovely to meet you all. I'm Victoria. I'm based in New York. I'm in Brooklyn at the moment. I've been here for a little over a year. I moved from the Bay Area at the beginning of the pandemic. I had like a grand vision of like an exciting life in New York City. And then of course the city shut down and was the epicenter of a global pandemic. So it did not go as expected, but things are starting to open up now and my vision is returning. I'm a product manager. I work at a company called Greenhouse. I build tools to help companies mitigate unconscious bias in their hiring and promote fair hiring outcomes. I was in the Bay Area for many years, working at Facebook on their election integrity team, building classifiers to identify misinformation and send it to fact checkers and hopefully reduce its virality in the feed. That work was like very exhausting and I was definitely burned out after that, which is why I ended up moving to New York. But I'm just really excited about meeting all of you and think that this community is so interesting. And the concept of a smart generalist is something that resonates with me personally on such a deep level. And it's just exciting to connect with other people who feel similarly about their strengths and sort of navigating their career paths together.
Thank you. So nice to hear that story.
Yeah, I think that one thing I've heard from a lot of people at Renco is that before Renco, we were kind of like, well, I kind of have experience in these different areas, but maybe if I go to apply for a specific job, I'm not like totally sure what the best fit for me is because I'm kind of like this generalist or whatnot. And I just feel like this community has like created this super powerful identity of what a smart generalist is that like in my startup specifically, as I think about, growing my team, just being able to like experience and interact with people who are smart generalists, I already know like who my first key hires are going to be because this is a group of people who get stuff done and are just very thoughtful. And so I really value the definition as well.
Hey all, I'm Varun. I'm originally from the Bay Area. I think the idea of being a smart generalist, or at least a generalist, has always resonated with me just because I grew up as mostly like a policy and politics and history and literature type of person. And then I went to a school that's really known for technology. So I was kind of hit in the face with it. And so then after that, I spent half my time doing a lot of policy work and then half my time doing technology work. Ended up in technology after graduating, was a data scientist at a firm building out production machine learning and software systems for credit underwriting, but always felt like I had, a foot in like, a different, pond of technology, of like policy and literature and other things. And, one of the things that I really valued about a company like that was mid-stage and growing was the community that I had. The company grew from like 200 to 850 people while I was there. And I felt like I just bonded with a lot of really interesting and smart folks. And then ended up leaving the company right before the pandemic to find something new, and felt like to some degree I lost that community. And now I'm actually an investor. And, I heard about Renco through David King, who's Jen's husband, because we co-invest together into a bunch of different companies, and was like, wow, okay, like this could be, a really cool community for me to find, those same bonds or very similar types of bonds that I used to have, that I've really missed ever since leaving a firm and ever since, just trying to like survive the pandemic. So, really excited about potentially meeting all of y'all and co-creating together.
That's so wonderful. I know the one word I wrote down as I went to describe this was community, if it could be one thing. And it's true. This feels like it could replace a work community or just supplement that. So I love that description.
Yeah, I think like the way that you described it as like a college lounge and someone's always in the lounge is totally what I thought of as well when I thought of the community. And I think also another part is, you know, you just kind of made me think about it, Varun, as you kind of transition to different jobs or like industries or whatnot. I think there's something really special about being able to kind of like be in somebody else's mind for a little bit. And so, for example, when I was filling out an application, I posted in the group and I was like, hey guys, I've never filled this out before, but can you help me out? Like, I'm kind of new at this. And there was like 12 people that were like reading through my app and adding thoughts and stuff like that. And just people, what that showed to me was that people are just so willing to kind of let you kind of be an apprentice to the way that they're used to doing things and the way that they're used to solving problems. And I find so much value in being able to just here and there, just jump into people's heads and shadow how they think and then pull a lot of knowledge from that.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's just so awesome. And I think especially, you know, making a career transition or like some kind of big transition in life, like that's just, I don't know, we usually lack that, but that's just so helpful to have to make that transition way smoother.
Totally. I mean, like there is basic questions where you're like, so am I allowed to ask for this? Or what's the culture like in this type of industry? And there's always somebody who's willing to like level with you.
Also, I like the fact that you used the term generalist and hesitated at smart generalists. And I realized I met with Chris in New York and we were with another group of friends. And then we realized kind of together, maybe generalist is the term. Like inside, we can say it's smart, but then outside, you know, we explain it as we're generalists and that's how we find each other. But we all understand the smart part to be, you know, what we appreciate.
I think I might be the last one who hasn't introduced themselves, but hello everyone, I'm Vincent and I apologize because I'm outside and it's raining a little bit, but let's see. So I graduated from Rutgers about like 2 years ago, studied a little bit in finance, currently working at a big bank in a treasury function, and I came across a article, regarding smart journalists, and it was a very well articulated and well written, and it resonated. So that kind of just like caught my interest, and one thing led to the next, and my curiosity just got piqued. So I'm just here to kind of observe what you guys are all about, and it's been pretty interesting to listen to. So yeah, I'm excited to kind of learn some more.
I don't know if it's fair to say, but I think of the words smart, funny, and kind together. I mean, you can only say one because you don't have that much real estate, but I do believe that everyone is super kind, like we've referenced, and then they have a really good sense of humor. So I find that like I feel uplifted after working with this group, seeing the chats. I always have like a secret smile on my face the next day regarding something someone said that just makes life sing for me. So I'll throw that out there.
It's really funny because when I was applying, just listening to people kind of talk about Renko, or like once you start getting into the essays, I was like, I went to my sisters who proofread my essays. And I was like, so if this ends up being like a cult, just like do an intervention, because it really does sound like one, because everyone's so excited about it. It's not a cult. Everybody would be like, oh my God, you need to meet Jen. I was like, who's Jen? But yeah, you end up finding out that people are just so kind that everyone just really, I don't know, feels good interacting with the community.
Yeah.
Do you all have any specific questions about like the admission process or the essays or I don't know, anything?
I have a question actually. So I'm just curious. So what happens after the essays are in? Is there any other stages to the admission process? Sorry if I missed that in the main presentation.
It's okay. I don't know if they covered it or not, but yeah, you essentially just find out.
Okay.
I would say like a couple weeks later, because
Okay.
there's I want to say there's like 6 people in the committee, but I think 3 review your application. And so it
Yeah,
just kind of
I have
like, you know, with their jobs and stuff like that, sometimes it takes a little bit longer if everybody's like super
Oh,
packed.
for sure. Yeah.
But yeah, a couple weeks. I remember I came in February, and I found out a couple weeks later.
Okay.
And they're just like, welcome.
That's great.
Here's an email with onboarding.
That sounds good.
Yeah, same happened to me.
Yeah, and then one thing that people haven't asked is like, if you don't get in this round, you have 6, like you can apply in 6 months after that.
Oh, okay.
And just like the general thought there is like, it's enough life experience to be able to like maybe have really cool things to talk about in your essays and stuff like that.
That's awesome.
Actually, if I can ask regarding the cohort introduction process, like, could you elaborate on kind of, you said there's like a meetup, and then like what other, I guess.
Yeah, so we did like a Zoom meetup. It was like 45 minutes long, and I planned it, so it was really spontaneous. It was kind of like we all found a date, and then I just had everybody like take their phones out and like scroll back to like a random picture and tell us like what the story behind that funny picture was, like before COVID. And you know, it's just kind of like a lighthearted thing. But yeah, the only other requirements, if you will, for the admissions process is to introduce yourself to the Slack group, just answering a couple questions, to update your profile on our like Renco team site. And then yeah, to organize your introduction with your cohort.
Got it. Thank you.
And the community is like less attached to the cohort like some others are. It's more so like one big blob.
Yeah, in my cohort, someone else organized it. I joined in, and then I felt, initiated. I wasn't that linear about checking off all those boxes, but somehow people invited me, and it just became very obvious that I was going to do this. Super easy.
Yeah, I think another part that we're like actively thinking about for the future is like, how do we scale this community to be tens of thousands of people large? And so I think it's a really cool kind of community or project to be involved in, because it's not like it's, your specific job or company that you're working for, but it's really a passion project where you're able to bring in different people's expertise and figure out like, how do we build this really amazing community that's going to continue to serve people in the way that it's serving us, but at a larger scale. So that's just like a quick example of like little projects and stuff that the hive mind comes together to figure out.
Do you at all take any specific roles within the organization in terms of like something that is from time to time, or is it just ad hoc whenever an opportunity presents itself that you organize and sort of for that specific project?
There's just a handful of people that kind of have roles, if you will, and that's
Okay.
mainly around admissions.
Okay.
Because that's like a process that needs to have sustainability. But other than that, people who are particularly passionate about programming will be the hosts of their like weekly event.
Okay.
Or people who are passionate about like getting people together in person will organize an event. So it's a lot more spontaneous.
Got it. It's more natural that way too.
Yeah, I think that's honestly the magic of it. It's just like being able to interact with people when nobody needs anything, when you're just interacting to build something together or to get to know one another. It really helps you develop trust, because it's very low stakes, right? It's just very organic.
It's a great way of doing it, for sure.
Yeah. What else is on your mind?
What was a recent event that you really enjoyed?
I really liked our New York gathering. It was like the first time that any of us had met each other in person, and also the first time that we went out to a public bar after the pandemic. And so we're all like, where are we? We're at happy hour. Can we drink? Is it safe to take our masks off? And it was really fun to just be able to be like, okay, that's cool.
I think I'm going to freak out when that happens, because the restrictions are still in here in Vancouver. So I think I've to relearn etiquette of being in a restaurant or like a bar again, because I've completely forgotten.
It's been so weird. How about you, Laurel?
Well, it was a recent salon. I think I did something in New York and had a similar experience to you, but a recent salon where we were talking about this issue of what's something that you haven't done that you really want to try. And it was just, people were so honest in such a short period of time, and I got to know them so well. So that was gratifying to me in terms of a meeting, official meeting. The fact that you can just kind of jump in anytime, it's a bit casual, you know, some of these things. When you have a moment, just you hop in. And I always love those operators you should know talks. They are so inspiring. I mean, every single one has been like a life changer for me, just to hear how these people that I've heard of that are with companies I know think, and they all share their secret tips with you in a way that I haven't heard before. So the fact that we share with one another how to succeed, they really want to share with us too. We had a chief marketing officer from a company, and she just told us how, you know, how she uses social media and, you know, how her career in PR has helped her. And this is the answer. These are the 3 tricks that she uses, but also learning about, you know, the stress in her family through work and how they work through things, the personal and the professional, and synthesizing all of those elements have given me such an education over the past year that I wouldn't have. It's really added to my toolkit.
I agree. Typically, people who come on for operators you should know or founders you should know are good friends of the network. And so they're more willing to kind of open up as if they're talking to their friend, which they usually are because they're the hosts. Yeah, I think that the salon series are really thoughtful. I mean, it's just when I was in college, there was like a definition that our college made for like types of conversations. And so there was like level 1, level 2, and level 3 conversations, with level 1 being like, hi, how are you? Where are you from? Or whatever. Level 2 being a little bit more like, what do you want to do with your life? Like, what are you majoring in? Blah, blah, blah. And then level 3 being like, what's the purpose of life? And the salon series really get into that. And I've been to one that like started with like, I don't know, it was a general topic, like, oh, I don't know, what is something that you've disrupted or something like that. And it went all the way to like, should you have kids if you're a startup founder? And just like really deep topics that a lot of people that were very diverse were thinking about.
Yeah, it's a safe place to be diverse. You can say what you're really thinking, and there's an understanding that that's okay. It's different, but that's okay, right? You don't feel judged. So you really feel like it's a safe place to just flesh out thoughts and hear other people's reaction to them.
How do you think you've been able to cultivate the sense of a safe space in a remote environment? I find that it's actually really challenging to do that virtually. And there's so much about like the energy of being in a physical space that contributes to feeling like you're amongst peers who like won't judge you. Yeah, how have you guys managed that?
I think those salons are honestly really good ways to forge those connections, because it's kind of what I mentioned. You're kind of shadowing the community and picking up on cues on like how people act with each other, and people open up super vulnerable. And so for me, that's been a really wonderful way to just get with the program and open up as well. And then I think also we had like a pretty consistent cooking program. That's where Laurel and I got to know each other. And it's usually like 3-4 people that are like in each other's homes with each other's like family. And you're just like cooking for like an hour and a half and getting to know one another. And that's really nice to kind of earn that trust.
Yeah, I think that people invest the time like that. Like I'm so stingy with my time. I don't give up an hour and a half like that. But with this group, I do. I don't know why. But I think that fact that everyone contributes their time and just lets go for a minute of the agenda feels really good. It's unbelievable. Like Chris, who hosts the salon, he's super busy. I mean, he's like 24/7 trying to, do 3 things at once. And yet he gives up the hour and prepares it. And I feel like that's so generous. The other thing I've noticed is that I think a technique might be just the positive feedback. Like you say something, sometimes you feel like an idiot once it comes out of your mouth. Like, what did I just say? But people are positive and curious, and they're like, wow, wait a minute, let me make sure I understand that. What do you mean? And I think that, those words like, that's a good question, or thanks, Laurel, or that's pretty funny, they respond to you. There's not like it falls flat. I think there's a sense of collaboration around supporting each person for being unique, no matter what, just that positive regard.
And that's so important when you're being vulnerable. And I think like even with the work environment, everybody like when you're being really vulnerable, like has their cameras on and everyone's like watching you and like nodding or like giving you like a thumbs up and like chatting in the chat and stuff. And it like somehow makes virtual feel like maybe even more supportive than in person.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're on to our last minute. Any other last questions? Awesome. Well, if you have any other questions, feel free to send an email to the admissions email. And as they mentioned earlier, once you're ready to apply, you have, a week budgeted to really think through things and stuff like that. Just send over an email and they'll send you a link to the application.
Awesome.
Thank you all. Thank you.
Thanks so much for organizing today.
Thank you so much. Our pleasure.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Take care.
Bye.
Have a good evening.